Every writer wants to feel successful, but sometimes we are just stuck or uninspired. And even when things are going well, we can feel baffled when our big wins aren't more, well, successful. This week, I'll explore these struggles alongside my guest, Akashic Records master teacher Amy Robeson. Join us as we bust some of the myths around success, talk about the secrets to raising your vibration, and explore some out of the box ways you can awaken the powerful writing voice within you. If you need a creative pick me up or you're just looking for some fresh ideas to take your writing to the next level, this episode is for you. Grab your notebook, open your heart, and get ready to be transformed. Welcome to Writing Your Resilience, a podcast for writers who want to create stories that change lives, especially their own. I'm your host, Lisa Cooper Ellison. As a writer and trauma-informed writing coach, I'm here to guide you on a transformative journey through the art of writing, self-discovery, and resilience. Each week, I'll share my best tricks, tips, and strategies to help you write more authentically, craft deeper, truer stories, and overcome the common storytelling roadblocks we all face. Together, we'll explore how to bounce back when life gets tough and stay connected to your inner calling. So grab your pen, your notebook, and an open heart. It's time to do the work that changes the world, one story at a time. Hi, I'm Lisa Cooper Ellison, and I am excited to invite you to join me on March 5th for my course, Memoir Backstory. If you're a memoirist, you know that backstory is a crucial part of your memoir, but it can be so tricky to figure out how much to include and how to weave it in without overwhelming your story. In this webinar hosted by Jane Friedman, you'll discover what to keep, what to cut, and what to repurpose so that you can write a captivating story while also working on your author platform. Best of all, this webinar is only $25. To register, go to janefriedman.com/memoir backstory with Lisa Cooper Ellison or click on the link in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you on March 5th. Well, hello, Amy. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, I'm really excited because I love your podcast, Awakening with Amy Robeson. It is an amazing podcast. And we are just going to have a really interesting conversation about awakening and about the tools we can use in order to do that and how we can raise our vibrations and why that's so important for creative people. But before we dive into that conversation, I always like to give my guests an opportunity to tell us a little about themselves.
Yeah, so I'm an Akashic Record master teacher. I've been teaching the Akashic Records since 2017. For anybody that doesn't know what the Akashic Records are, they're a field of infinite possibilities that holds every word, deed, thought from the moment your soul is incepted is recorded in the Akashic field. And we can open up the records and receive love and guidance and support in any and all areas of their life. So I teach spiritual modalities and spiritual tools for people to have a good life and to, most importantly, to find and have a self-discovery. And the modalities I teach are all very weird and strange, but allow you to connect to something deeper out within and outside yourself as well.
I love weird and strange. And what I would say to anyone who has a creative practice is that weird and strange fits into the role of novelty. And novelty is so important to your writing life because it cracks you open and it allows you to see things in different ways. And that is one of the ways that we awaken, is seeing differently. And so in preparation for this conversation, I was really thinking about what my definition of awakening is. And I'm really interested to hear what your definition is, just to see how much they line up. And so when I was thinking about awakening, I started thinking about my own experience of awakening, which has been a process that I have been going through for many, many years. And I think it feels like it's related to self-awareness and connecting to something outside of yourself. For me, it is higher consciousness, the sense of something that is the divine outside of myself and also inside myself. That's how I interpret things. But for some people, it can be as simple as connecting to your writing group, like having a community or connecting to your creativity. And that's important because we all start from nothing when we are creating. You know, we go from the blank page to something, and that is miraculous. And also this being willing to listen to what your soul is asking you to do, right? Hearing that still small voice, and then having a willingness and openness to doing what it asks. How does that line up with yours?
Oh, I love that. I think for me, awakening is like waking up out of the sleep. You are in one reality. And when you start the awakening process, you start to see or sense or feel that this reality is no longer fitting into where you want to go. All of the illusions of self, the illusions of identity, start to be peeled away because you feel uncomfortable. It's like a crab that's outgrown its shell. Like you have to be willing to let yourself be in a vulnerable place by getting out of the shell to regrow
Yeah.
a new shell in order to metamorphosis into the true authentic self. And we go through many awakenings besides just one. And when you're going through that awakening, you start to question your beliefs, your identities, your values, and they just don't feel, not all of them, but most of them or some of them just don't feel right anymore. But you're not sure why they don't feel right, but they just don't feel right. And so you start questioning everything and questioning who you are and why you're here and what you want to do. And sometimes when someone awakens, they have a tragedy happen, and it could be as getting fired from a job or losing something or transitioning out of something, or it can just be as simple as you're just not comfortable in your skin anymore. You just don't know why. And why is that? And so for me, awakening is this process of discovering who you are. And some of them are easy awakenings and some of them are dark night of the soul awakenings, but we go through many of them throughout our lifetime.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that, that it's not this one aha moment. It is a process that continues and changes over time. You know, there are these layers of awakening we go through, or periods of awakening. And I don't know if this has been your experience, but it's certainly been my experience, is that there have been times where awakening happens and then it's almost like the awakening is integrating inside me. You know, it's like big change happens, discomfort, reorganization of who I am, all of that questioning that you just talked about. Then it's like there's a lull and I'm like, okay, life is good again, or, you know, it's easy, or I'm in the flow. And then, oh, there we go. Here, another
Off to the
opportunity.
races.
Yes.
It's like that, and then also when you do deep work too, once you get through like the first dark night of the soul, the second one is not as difficult, but it still can
Mhm.
be difficult. But when you're doing the deeper work, there is this integration process that you have to allow for the universe to catch up to you.
Yes.
Because just because you reorganize doesn't mean everything can reorganize like that.
Hmm.
Everything in your reality has to kind of shift, sometimes crumble, sometimes fall away, sometimes be invited in. And then life just ends up changing. And it can change in a short period of time, but in that time period, it can feel like it's taking forever. And we don't want it to take forever. We want instant gratification. And it's just not how it works. But I know, like, I've done some really deep work in 2024, and I was doing some really deep work on my business and on myself. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just ready for it to just change. Like, come on." But I know that there's all these things that I have to do and I want to do in order to make the shifts be on the outside and not just on the inside of how I
Yes.
worked on it.
Yeah. And I think taking time and being patient is really important. And this relates to an episode that you recently had, because what can happen when we are in what could feel like a dark night of soul or easy, it just depends. But I think the dark night of the soul ones are the ones
That's
we're
not easy.
really,
That's not
no,
easy. That one's not easy.
no, but they're the ones that we're very aware of. And we also want to hurry up. And, you know, raising your vibration, finding ways to seek something higher, to elevate yourself, I think can be really helpful. But I think people can get confused, or maybe they can feel misguided around what that is. You know, what does it mean to raise your vibration? And I'm going to say something, and I'm going to turn it over to you, is that in positive psychology, and I think in some of the more prosperity styles of spirituality, it can feel like, oh, if I just have all of these positive thoughts, all of these positive things are going to happen to me, or I'm going to manifest all of these things. And it can give you the impression that if I'm doing all of these things and I'm in the dark night of the soul, or life is difficult still, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
My vibration isn't high enough. And what would you say to all of that?
I think you have to stop and pause and take inventory.
Yeah.
Because if you're not manifesting something that you're really wanting to manifest, the question is, what's your why? Why do you want to manifest that thing? Because if you don't get clear on your why, it's very hard for you to attract that very thing.
Yes.
The second piece is, just because you think positive thoughts doesn't mean you actually believe them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not actually embodying that positive thought and it feels actually outside of you, it just feels like something you're saying, but you're not actually integrating it, embodying it, believing it, it's just noise. It's not actually something that you believe quite yet. You can believe it, but sometimes if you're going through a dark night of the soul, it's hard to actually believe that positive thought because everything feels like you're going through the ringer. Everything feels hard. It feels depressing. It feels dark. It feels hard to actually grasp something that feels great and yummy and delicious inside of our mind. And so the invitation during the dark night of the soul is to actually dig deeper into your emotions and feel
Mm-hmm.
those emotions, because we don't want to spiritually bypass.
Yeah.
And spiritual bypassing is when you're just like, everything is going to be so positive and I'm going to be positive and everything's going to work out. But sometimes you have to go into the anger, into the frustration, into
Mm-hmm.
the sadness, into fill in the blank, the emotion that you've been avoiding, and actually feel those emotions. Because once you feel them, you can set them free and they will set you
Yes.
free, because you don't have the space to actually hold on to that positive thought, that positive affirmation, that positive mantra until you actually process what's clogging down your energy field, your energy container. And until you make that space for it by acknowledging the feelings, acknowledging the experiences, and then allowing them to be set free, you can then bring in what you're wanting to attract.
I love that you just said that because it just aligns so much with how I see things. And yeah, we have to attend to whatever our feelings are. Feelings aren't wrong, they're just signals, right? They're just signals, they're just energy. And if we can allow the energy to flow, we do free ourselves. We do allow for something else to come in. And I'll just be the first to say, like, I have done this in the past where I have had a mantra or something that I was saying, and I was really afraid. Like, usually fear is the thing that will hide underneath it. And I was both afraid, and then I was hoping that saying this mantra, whether it was related to my creative life or something else, would take the fear away. And instead, it wasn't until I attended to the fear and was really with it and go, oh, yeah, I'm afraid. What do I need to feel safe? How can I allow this to move through me, that I could actually take that in?
And it's a totally normal feeling. Even when I teach my program, Sacred Awakening, where I teach people how to use their Akashic Records, I will have students that are like, I'm so scared of what I'm going to discover. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally get that. But I'm going to tell you right now, the guardians, the masters, teachers, loved ones of your records are never going to share something with you you're not ready to receive. And
Mm-hmm.
so turn and give yourself permission to acknowledge, I'm scared. I'm nervous. What if I don't do it right? Perfect. Actually lean into it and just go, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay, because we're just going to practice, and it's okay if we make a mistake. Because the only way to actually learn how to do something is to practice. Just like if you're wanting to learn how to use the saw, the only way to learn how to use the saw is to actually turn the saw on and start using it, right? And so with fear, I think it's important to befriend our fears, because fears are what keep us crippled or what keep us frozen and prevents us from moving forward and evolving.
Yes. Absolutely. And one of the things that I have found people are most afraid of is becoming their most powerful and authentic self
Oh, for
and
sure.
being successful.
Yeah, absolutely. If I become successful, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Am I going to leave my family behind? Are people going to like me? I'm not going to have the same friends, or I'm not going to have the same colleagues, or I'm going to be leaving this group or this community or this because that means I'm growing and they're not coming with me. Or if I'm successful, whatever money belief you have around success is going to come up too. Or
Yeah.
whatever belief system around any area of your life around having that success is going to come up as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way through is through.
Yes. And I think one thing that I find happens for a lot of people, and I see this in the writing community a lot and in other spaces as well, is that when we become successful, when we really touch that in some way, even if and I don't even believe that there is some, mountaintop of success you're going to get on top of and stay there forever, because that's not how it works, that there can be tremendous grief, right? Grief for the time when you didn't see yourself that way.
I think there's even grief after you reach the success
Yeah.
because there's so much illusion of what that success
Hmm.
looks like. And then when you get there, your body doesn't actually give you the dopamine hit that you are searching for because it gave you the dopamine hit along the journey. And that's the exciting part. And so you don't get the rush of dopamine when it actually happens most of the time. Sometimes,
Hmm.
yes, you could. But if you even look at Olympic athletes, after they've worked so hard, after they've gone to the Olympics, most of them go through depression afterwards because they've done the thing that they said they were going to do. And
Yes.
now what? And so my thing is stop chasing happiness. Choose to be happy in the moment. Choose to be happy along the journey of whatever it is that you're working on. Everybody's working on all sorts of different things, right? In all areas of their life, but choose to be happy now and not when you get that thing, not when you achieve that thing, not when you write the book. Like you can
Yes.
be actually happy in the journey. And one of the things that I love about the Akashic Records is it allows you to have a self-discovery with yourself. So if you do have a hard time figuring out the steps, let's say you're wanting to write a book, like you can use the records to outline your book. You can use the records for writing the book. You can use the records for why am I actually not writing the actual book? What's holding me back from using my voice? What are my subconscious fears that I have around writing this book, and why can't I actually bring it to the finish line? And that's the thing that I love about the records, is just because you can use them for anything and everything that pertains to yourself.
I love the synchronicity with this, because this is going to air at the tail end of this Substack series that I'm doing on voice and where your voice comes from. How does it show up on the page? So I think this is going to
Awesome.
dovetail nicely with this. And we are getting ready to dive into the Akashic Records because I think they are going to be so powerful. Before we do, I want to talk about an exercise that I did with a class recently that speaks directly to what you were just saying around, can you claim happiness right now rather than chasing it? And so I saw this on Instagram. You see a lot of things on Instagram, and I will put this little clip on in the show notes so people can see it. But it was this wonderful exercise. And in it, this person is saying, well, I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to become an author, and I'm going to have a speaking tour, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And then this other side of her says, and then what? And so this is the exercise that I did with the classes. If I achieve X, and I had people fill in the X, and then what? And then I said, whatever that what is, I want you to put that in. If I have that, then what? And do that 7 times and see where you get. And then journal about what is keeping you from doing that, whatever that final thing is. And it was a huge aha for so many people.
I love that. What a fun exercise. Yeah, I think that's neat because it's true. Like you're waiting for the next thing, and then sometimes people already know what the next thing is right before they get to the finish line of the other thing. And so they don't even stop to celebrate. So that's why, like, oh, I'm done with that. Okay, let's go on to the next thing.
Right.
This is where we miss the ability to raise our frequency or raise our consciousness through the practice of gratitude. I'm so grateful I got this opportunity. I'm so grateful that I actually did it. I'm so proud of myself. I'm this, I'm that, or whatever. And you get to take the time to celebrate. Because I
Yeah.
think that a lot of times that people think, well, if I'm going to celebrate, it should be when someone's getting married or having a baby
Hmm.
or gets a job promotion. No, you can celebrate that you just simply got out of bed this morning.
Yes.
You brushed your teeth and brushed your hair or whatever it is that you are having a hard time doing for the day. Celebrate it, because
Yes.
life is challenging. And sometimes we're in these lows where it takes so much effort, a tremendous amount of effort just to take a shower, or it takes a tremendous amount of effort to sit down and start writing, or to sit
Right.
down and do whatever it is that you're wanting to do. And it could be for a multitude of reasons, but just celebrate it. Just celebrate the smallest, tiniest win, because the more you celebrate the smallest, tiniest win, the more you're going to actually look forward to looking at all the wins
Yes.
throughout the day. And then you raise your frequency, because when you count your blessings, the universe blesses you with more.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I would say, in the writing world, that could be, I thought about my project today. I
Yes.
heard this small thing. You haven't even sat down at the page. I just heard that. So the small wins are important, but one thing you definitely don't want to do with the big wins is don't self gaslight yourself by dismissing what you have achieved. I see this happen all the time where people will say, well, I won this contest, but maybe it's a mistake. Maybe
Oh,
they
yeah.
feel sorry for me, or I got this publication, but it's not the New York Times, or I published my book, but it's not, I haven't sold a million copies, whatever things you're imagining. Having gratitude for what is so important, regardless if it's the teeny tiny things or the big things, because that's part of how you raise your vibration, as you said, and allow for those integrations to happen so you can really understand what's next. And in terms of figuring out what is next or what we should be doing or what might be getting in our way, you have a fabulous tool for us.
Yeah, and that's, for me, that's the Akashic Records.
Yes.
So, and if anybody's listening to this and they're like, you've mentioned that several times, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a fantastic spiritual tool that allows you to understand who you are and how to navigate life. It's not fortune telling. It is a spiritual tool. Akash means space in Sanskrit, or it's the book of life through the Bible. And what it does, the Akashic Records, what it does is it's an autobiography of your soul. And the Akashic Records holds every word, deed, thought from the moment your soul is incepted. And we can go inside of the Akashic Records and ask for love and guidance and support in any and all areas of your life. And we are talking to the guardians of your records, also known as the masters, teachers, and loved ones. And they're there to support you in understanding who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And they can support you with the past, the present, and the future. And for me, this is one of the most coolest life tools because it couples well with any other tools in your toolbox. So from meditation to movement to writing to anything, like it's going to couple well with that.
Yeah. And I'd love for you to give us a taste of this power, what it can do for us, because you have an exciting offering that is coming up, which you're going to have a chance to talk about. But can you tell us a little more? Help us see what this is like and how we might use this.
Yeah. Are you interested in getting like a little mini reading?
Sure.
Okay. And then for anybody that's listening to this, any time I do readings on podcasts, we're in a big group. There's people
Yeah.
listening or watching all around the world. And so anything I share on here that resonates with you, it's for you anytime. Anything that doesn't, leave it behind. And so what I'll do is I'll share whatever you want to ask a question about, and then I'll generalize it for your audience as well. So what are you wanting to ask a question about, or what are you wanting support with, or what are you struggling with right now?
So I'm going to share the highest level details of this because I think that's the easiest way. So last year, I talk about this a lot. I have complex PTSD. I'm a trauma survivor. And there was this one trauma that I did not have access to for most of my life for a very good reason. My nervous system was saying it's not time yet. And my nervous system finally said, here you go. And I have been in the process of integrating that. And as I've been integrating that, it was really hard for me to write for a period of time. And one of my wise ones was saying when I was feeling pretty down, like, oh my gosh, how can I coach other people if I can't write myself? I mean, we go through these periods. And what he said to me that really stuck was, maybe your voice is changing.
Yes.
Maybe you need to allow time for that integration to happen. And then you're going to write from a new place. So I think my creativity is starting to speak to me again. And I'm beginning to feel that energy. But how do I lean into this new voice or understand when the new voice is there? Or what do I do with all that? I don't know if that's a good enough question or if you want to lead me
Yeah.
into something more specific.
No, that's a fantastic question, and I love it. And thank you for sharing that with me. What I'm hearing for you is it's important for you to take her for a walk. Who's her? It's your voice. Take her for a walk. And it's a metaphor and also physically. If you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, you can go and take a walk, get your headphones on, grab your phone, and you can literally do a voice memo app or use the Otter app and speak as you're walking, kind of channeling some information. Because, when you're writing a book, what do? You channel, like you're
Yeah.
tapping into this higher source of energy that's wanting to speak through you. And so the only way to get familiar with a new car is to take the car for a test drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I see you doing is take her for a walk in different places you don't typically write.
Mm.
So if you have, your writing space that you normally write, go into a different space. Because what's going to end up happening is your space that you typically write is going to start changing to match your new vibration and frequency
Mm-hmm.
of where your voice is heading.
Yeah, that is making so much sense. And there is such serendipity in what you're saying because I was actually listening to this call with someone else who was talking specifically about the voice memo app and speaking into it just this morning. And it was
Oh, I
related
love
to
that.
and it was related to somebody else that had done this. So that is resonating with me a lot. And I think that's going to be really important because the project that is calling to me, and I'm saying it out loud, and gosh, my heart is even beating fast as I'm saying it. Like, I'm feeling it in the moment. Is that I've had all of these different projects I've been working on. And the one that is saying, you need to write me, you need to write me, you need to write me, feels almost the most spiritually risky, but also the richest. My whole life is predicated on a near death experience. So I had this near death experience right after birth. And I've been unpacking, well, what has that meant for me? How has that helped me understand or made it difficult to understand who I am, how my life has unfolded, all of these different things. And the idea of writing about something so ethereal feels really important and also really scary.
One, I think it's fantastic. I think they're saying that you already know you're meant to write it. So just rip off the Band-Aid and start
Yeah.
writing it. Okay. And they showed me this visual image when you first started sharing your question with me, and then they wanted me to go back to it because I didn't share it with you, but it's really important for you to know is like you're going from a green to a purple. If we think about the chakras, you're writing from your heart, which is great. You always want to write from your heart, but
Hmm.
you can also bring spirit into heart.
Yeah.
And what you're moving into is bringing spirit into heart.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense because some of the writing that I've done thus far, I've written in the past, I would say week and a half, 3 dirty drafts of chapters. And then there's this chapter that I have to write now where I'm like, oh, I have to go into this? Really? Oh, okay. But the tone of everything is different. And it matches what you're saying because I think when I think about this project, which, I've talked about a lot, but it's on hold right now, is that my brother died by suicide back in 1997, which was, thank you, which a really tough situation. And but what was interesting about it is that happened. Then I ended up on this heavy metal tour 3 weeks later, going into Yugoslavia, where they were trying to overthrow Milosevic. So all of
Mm.
these big things are happening at the same time. And I see these people who their land was as war torn as my heart was. And
Yeah.
I had this massive awakening because I was just in this state of just absolute devastation where I couldn't hear anything from anyone other than someone bearing witness to my pain, which is appropriate for someone who is in the early stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so mired in that grief that I couldn't see any light, like no light. It was just absolute darkness. But when I saw the people who were, I mean, I spoke with the dissidents who were trying to overthrow the government and met these different people. I had all these experiences in this very short period of time. It was this huge aha for me. And then looking back, it was also this time where I was devastated and it felt like my whole life was falling apart and I was completely held. Like I got everything I needed. I couldn't see it at the time. Like that's the great thing about writing is you can see these things in retrospect, but that manuscript has a lot of darkness and a lot of the heartache in it. Like it was written very much from my heart. And this new work, I don't know how to describe it, but purple feels right.
Yeah, I love it. And, grief is such a complicated thing.
Mhm.
And I love that you went on tour and you got to experience something that allowed you to process your grief in a different way.
Yeah.
It brought you to the next stages of grief, right? One of the things that the Guardians are sharing is that while you're writing in this new phase of your life, be willing to go where you haven't gone before.
Mhm.
And they're saying that that's why they wanted me to come back to your writing space is going to change because it will help bring forward this new type of writing style because it
Mhm.
feels different. Like when you paint a room and you like the room before, but you're like, oh, I really want to paint the room. And all of a sudden you get some new paint color up on the walls and you're like, oh, it just feels so different in here. It feels good.
Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't feel good because it didn't turn out to be the right color paint, right? But regardless,
Mhm.
it feels different.
Yes.
Good or bad, it feels different. And they're saying that your space, it needs an energetic overhaul to match your new frequency.
Oh my goodness. Another serendipity. I was just reading something about that. Seriously. And I looked at my writing space, which also happens to be my business space. Like,
Yeah.
those things have been happening in the same space. And I've been feeling that need to overhaul it. Like, if you want a different energy, you have to change it in some way.
Yes.
There's something there. So what you're saying to me fits with these urges. And what I would say, if anyone's listening and you're hearing this and there's a piece that's an aha for you, think about what is resonating for you in this. Even though she's, Amy, you're talking to me, you're also talking to everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
That, yeah, things like changing your space, saying things out loud, recording yourself. There's so many things that you've just said. Walking with your voice is so important. Yeah, I'm just going to be sitting with this. I'm smiling right now if you're listening to this like
Yay.
on Apple Podcasts because yeah, it just fits so well. If we take this, you've given me this beautiful feedback for myself. If we extrapolate it out to everyone else and we're thinking about, the world we're in 2025, where do you want to take that?
Yeah. So, what the Guardians are saying is it's really important to set yourself up for success this year.
Mm.
How do you want to show up? What do you want to look like? And not that looks matter, but the way you feel and what you're wearing and how you're showing up directly impacts the way you navigate each chapter of your life. Setting yourself up every day for success is really important,
Yes.
which is funny because I've never channeled this before, but they're saying that getting dressed, figuring out what you want to wear, because so many people work from home and some people don't work from
Mm-hmm.
home, but they're saying it's important to get dressed as if you're going to an office when you're writing. It's important to dress in a way that makes you feel comfortable and in flow and at ease with yourself while you're doing that. What that looks like for each and every person can be completely different. The other thing that the Guardians are saying is your environment impacts your thoughts. Clean out the things that don't feel good to you anymore. Clean out the clutter from the spaces where it's hidden in, meaning don't just shove something in the corner and think it's going to make everything okay in the space. And yes, temporarily, and you can do like casual cleaning a little bit at a time if you have a big project, but they're saying get into the nooks and crannies because all of that
Mhm.
holds a vibrational space within your writing and within your container to create. And so the container that in which you create needs to support your creative endeavors. And
Mhm.
so have it match where you're wanting to go, not where you're currently at.
I love that. No, it makes total sense to me. And what I hear, in terms of dressing for success or setting yourself up, setting your space up for success, really thinking about what does success look like for you? What creates ease for you? What makes you feel confident? What makes you feel like you are in your power? What makes you feel authentic? And, sometimes the yoga pants. And I'm laughing because I think it was 2020. I started working from home full time and I was like, why am I wearing, I don't know, these uncomfortable jeans or uncomfortable pants or like formal pants, right? That's what I would call them,
Mhm.
formal pants. Like, why am I wearing formal pants all the time? I work from home. I don't go out because this pandemic is happening. And so it became yoga pants city. I can still have the yoga pants. I'm not going to necessarily completely get rid of those, but really thinking about what makes me feel confident and in my power and authentic so that I'm not in Frumpville because it is so easy, especially if I'm not on camera, to be like, it can be a dress down day. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if we get stuck in that, it affects everything else.
I do, I agree. And for example, it's a snow day here, and I had my pajama pants on, and I'm like, oh, these just feel so cozy, and I just want to keep them on. But no, I'm going to go get dressed. I'm going to go get my jeans on. I'm going to go get my top on. I'm going to go do whatever I want to do to feel really good. And it does change the way you feel. And
Yeah.
I think that so often, there's this misconception that you have to have somewhere important to go in order
Hmm.
to dress the way that your fancy clothes like.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you don't have to go anywhere. Like, I will wear the craziest dresses or the fanciest things just sitting and writing or working on my business just because it makes me feel good, and the actual piece of clothing brings me joy
Hmm.
or it sparks joy. And one of my girlfriends and I, we have a commitment to each other that we're going to go out to lunch throughout this year and wear the most fanciest clothes that we have in our closet, that there's nothing else but to just go to lunch in them. And it's fun just even thinking about it.
Yeah, I love that. So now I have to make some lunch dates with some friends where I can wear my fancy clothes. I'm going to,
Why not, right?
yes. Yeah, because there's so many things in my closet. And there was actually a piece of clothing, it was actually a pair of shoes that I did not buy because my justification was I work from home. How many times will I actually wear these? Well, it's a legitimate thing to think about. And it's also a limiting thing because it's saying that I can't wear things that make me feel good or that I think are cool or that I like because I have to have a space to go to or I have to have an excuse for it. Well, I can choose to be happy now. I can choose to wear whatever it is or do
Yeah.
those things.
You can wear them cooking dinner. That's the
Exactly.
fun part. It's like,
Yes.
I don't think it's as common now, but remember like back in the day, you'd always have like a potpourri that like you'd put in your bathroom and fancy bathroom stuff. And it was always decoration, but you could actually use it, and
Right.
people wouldn't use it because it was decoration. I'm like, no, you use that thing. Like use it. It makes you feel good. But in regards to like fancy shoes, just wear them. Just wear them
Yeah.
while you're writing. The nice thing is they won't hurt your feet
Right.
as you're sitting.
Exactly. Another thing I'm going to do, in addition to, yes, I had this whole plan to revamp my space, but there is a closet
Mhm.
that I have put all the things in.
Oh, that's even more funny that they said that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the closet. I'm sure other people listening have the closet or the space.
Everybody has one little space,
Yeah.
if not more.
And doing this work, even though it might not feel like writing, it is actually enhancing your writing life to set up your space for success because it sets up your mind for success. And when your mind is set up for success, you are more open and you feel an experience of flow and ease in your process. Well, if people want to learn more about the Akashic Records, you've already given us so much. I feel like I've gotten 1,000 wins. So thank you, Amy. But I want everyone else to be able to explore this in whatever ways they like. Tell us what you have coming up.
I do a 10-day, it's absolutely free, a 10-day event. It's online, it's virtual. It's called the Soul Evolution Masterclass Series Extravaganza. And the reason why it's an extravaganza is because we go Monday through Friday for 2 weeks, and we go into the Akashic Records. We work with the ancestors. We clear money blocks. We clear abundance blocks. So bringing in more abundance. We talk about ways to manifest with the Akashic Records and why you might be not manifesting, even if you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, and why that occurs. And then we do a lot of different types of healings and group beings inside of the Akashic Records as well. So if anybody's interested in that, you can go to theamyrobeson.com/masterclass, and that's TheamyRobeson.com/masterclass. And it's really fun. We always have tons of people that come. And if you can't join the live, you can catch the replays.
I love that. And if you missed it or you didn't write it down fast enough, it's going to be in the show notes, just an easy click away. What are some other ways that people can connect with you if they want to see what you're doing online, or they want to listen to your podcast, which is absolutely fabulous?
Yeah, so everything's on my website, even our podcast episodes. So it's theamyrobeson.com. Make sure you put the in there, the THE. You can also check out my podcast. It's on all the streaming platforms for podcasts. It's Awakening with Amy Robeson. We also have a YouTube channel that we put all the podcast episodes on there. Then we usually have one live show a week, or plus we have like other free gifts. We always have something going on for everybody that's wanting to either learn more about the Akashic Records or other modalities that I teach, and just basically have community, because that's the most important thing, is just having community of like-minded people that want to learn and grow and evolve.
Absolutely. And Awakening with Amy Robeson, also you do some live podcast episodes. I know that as well on YouTube. And
Yes.
So we'll make sure that people have access to connecting with all of the things you're doing, because if you have a question for Amy, you might be able to ask that during one of her live episodes.
Yeah, we do it once a week. And if you go to theamyrobeson.com/free, that usually will tell you when our next live is. Once a week, we have the regular show that just gets aired. So we have 2 episodes a week. And then if we have any other master classes that are going on, there's always something going on.
Well, this has been an absolutely fabulous conversation. Thank you so much, Amy, for being part of my podcast experience and community. And how would you like to end for today?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun. And I can share one more little message that the Guardians want to share, if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. The Guardians are saying that don't let overwhelm stop you from progress. 1% progress makes a world of a difference each and every day. So even if it's just moving one book out of your closet, maybe it got thrown in there for whatever reason, or if it's just thinking about the thing that you really want to do and writing it down. 1% progress is better than doing nothing. And don't let overwhelm stop you.
I am writing that down, and I'm going to put it up in my writing space. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Amy Robeson. If you'd like to learn more about Amy or her work, please see the show notes for this episode. But before you go, please text us your latest writing win so you can celebrate yourself and we can celebrate alongside you. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly couldn't do this podcast without your support. If you love this episode, here are 3 simple ways you can keep this show thriving. 1, subscribe or follow Writing Your Resilience on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube so you never miss an episode. 2, leave a 5-star review to help others discover the podcast. 3, join my engaged writing community by signing up for the Writing Your Resilience newsletter. As a thank you, you'll receive a free copy of Write More, Fret Less, a toolkit for gaslight proofing your writing practice. Have feedback for the show, a topic you'd love me to cover, or questions you'd like me to answer? Drop a comment on YouTube, text the show, or email me at writingyourresiliencepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, keep writing, keep growing, and keep showing up for yourself. Your story matters, and I am so proud to be writing alongside you.